is a series on Indian literature. You know what is the most admirable change that has happened in our English literature studies of late? Maybe in the 21st century. The change is that we are now more and more focusing on our own culture, our own literature. English literature is not only Euro-American anymore. A lot of exams are having questions based on Indian history, Sanskritic traditions, Dalit literature, contemporary Indian diasporic writers. Wow. It might look a little difficult because we are not used to such questions, from the past. But don't worry. This video series is going to make you familiar with all the major developments. And it is going to be easy for us. So, English literature in India began with English studies, the coming of English language. Obviously, the coming of English language was with the coming of the English. The English people came because before that Vasco da Gama came. He discovered the sea route to India. When was that? 1498. It was almost 102 years later, on 31st December 1600, that the British East India Company was established in India. The British East India Company was one of the many East India companies set up by colonizers to start trade and commerce with the Asian countries. And the British East India Company slowly spread their tentacles, their trade relations across India. They came to Calcutta first, then Bombay, then Madras, and they began ruling India. While the East India Company developed its trade relations, slowly in the 18th century, education in English was started by the missionaries. The people who spearheaded or took initiative to teach English language in India, they were the missionaries who wanted to spread Christianity. Why? Because they thought Christianity will save us Indians from hell. Charles Grant was an important figure. And English education spread at that time in the 18th century and also 19th century. Charles Grant's Charter Act 1813 is very important. And then, because English language education spread, English newspapers came into being. We all know 1780, Hickey's Bengal Gazette. And newspapers led to, education and newspapers led to the slow beginning of English literature. Indians began to write English literature. Very important is the Travels of Deen Muhammad, 1794. After that, in the 19th century, came Rajmohan's Wife and the verse play by C.S. Nazir about the first Parsi baronet. These are all early Indian English literary works. It was after the Sepoy Mutiny. That is what the British called the first war of India's independence. After that, in the middle of the 19th century, what happened? The Crown took over. The British government began to rule India directly. So, this is in a nutshell what happened in the 18th and 19th centuries with regard to British Raj in India. And as I already mentioned, Charter Act was the act that made education the responsibility of the East India Company. The East India Company took upon themselves to spread English education. And then Lord William Bentinck became the Governor General. When? In the middle of the 19th century. 1828, he became Governor General. He wanted to spread English education. Lord William Bentinck wanted to spread English education. And you know what happened? Macaulay was appointed to study the scenario, and Macaulay presented his infamous Minute on Education in 1835. It is called the Manifesto of English Education in India, as you might know. Macaulay believed that the British should educate some Indians, and they in turn will educate the rest of the masses. This is called the downward filtration theory. First you educate some Indians and then they educate the masses. Downward filtration. English, some Indians, and then the masses. This resulted in the English Education Act of 1835. Macaulay's Minute was a very harsh report on the Indians and their need to study English. It was really racist and Orientalist. The harsh rhetoric of Macaulay was toned down a little bit in the 1854 Woods Dispatch. 1854 Woods Dispatch. Woods Dispatch led to the formation of 3 universities: Bombay, Calcutta, and Madras. But all the recommendations of Woods Dispatch were not brought into reality. That is why in 1882 there was a Hunter Commission to study why all the recommendations have not been implemented. Hunter Commission of 1882. After that, there were many other commissions during the British Raj. The Indian University Commission, 1902, which led to the Indian Universities Act of 1904. By that time, university education was rampant. It was becoming more and more important. And Calcutta University was there, but it was not functioning that great. So there was the Calcutta University Commission under Sadler. Dr. Sadler, he was a very important academic. So the Calcutta University Commission led to the development of or reformation of universities in India. At this time, slowly publishing is developing. Textbooks are being printed. Textbook culture has come into being. And in the 17th, 18th centuries, English also became Indianized. There were Indian loan words. It was Subbarao, G. Subbarao, a very important academic from Andhra Pradesh, who wrote the book Indian Loan Words in English. It's a classic textbook. And this also gave rise to Anglo-Indian literature. Anglo-Indian literature means literature written by Indians in English, and some Indians were mixed race. They were Anglo-Indians. Right? So textbook publishing started. English education became more and more common. All this happened mostly in the southern India, the coastal regions of India. So that is why in some parts of India there is more English education. Towards the central parts of India, English education is rather less. Now coming to the 20th century. In the 20th century, there were many other commissions and reports that institutionalized English education. For example, the Abbott-Wood Report, 1937. Abbott-Wood Report was very important because it started vocational education. Polytechnics were established as a result of this. I remember when I was a student, when I heard of Abbott Wood report, I had to remember that's about vocation. So wood is there, carpentry is promoted. I studied like that. Vocation, wood, carpentry, I connected like that. Abbott Wood report was followed the very next year. Abbott Wood report 1937. In 1938 came the Zakir Hussain Committee, or it is also called the Vallath scheme of education. Now that is interesting. In the British Raj, an Indian is heading the commission and he is bringing into reality Mahatma Gandhi's ideas on basic education. Mahatma Gandhi had talked about Nai Talim, basic education, or Bunyadi Shiksha. That is the focus of Vallath scheme of education. 1938. There were many other committees at this time, but one more that is very important is the 1944 committee called the Sargent Committee, Sargent Report, CABE report. 1944 it is, that means just after the Second World War. The Second World War is just coming to a close. So much disaster happened across the world because of the Second World War. And then India's independence came. After independence, the first commission is Dr. S. Radhakrishnan Commission. Dr. S. Radhakrishnan Commission, or University Education Commission of 1948. As you may expect, he upheld Indian culture. Radhakrishnan Commission gave importance to Indian culture and also language problem. Whether Indians should speaking in English or Hindi, what should be the medium of education, that problem. After that, properly education was studied. First, primary education was studied by B.G. Kher Commission, and then secondary education was studied by Mudaliar Commission. So first, Radhakrishnan Commission, Indian culture, language problem. After that, B.G. Kher's Primary Education Commission. After that, Mudaliar, Lakshmana Swami Mudaliar's Secondary Education Commission. In the 1950s and early 60s, there was a big problem in India. Kya hai? The Hindi problem. North Indians wanted Hindi to be the national language. South Indians resisted. This was following the Official Languages Commission. And 1958. And after that, what happened is, there was an All India Language Conference. It was called by C. Rajagopalachari, and southern states like Tamil Nadu and all started fighting so much. We don't want Hindi because our own language will get destroyed. That is what they thought. Anyway, it was solved. The government relented and Hindi was not imposed. That was a big issue. And then the first major commission in the 1960s, after all this, is Kothari Commission. You might know, all of you, Kothari Commission is very famous. 10 plus 2 plus 3 pattern they recommended in education. And after that, in 1968, that is 2 years later, there came one NPE, National Policy on Education, 1968. If you turn it ulta-pulta, in 1986, another NPE came. In 1968, NPE. In 1986, NPE and POA. POA means Program of Action. It's actually easy to remember. You know, the trick is, first you identify the major landmarks. Don't study too much about them. Identify the major landmarks. Next stage is 1 or 2 main points you know about them. You can also Google search, why is NPE 1968 important? Like that, if you Google search, you will get. Did you understand? And then slowly fill in more and more details. Now, 1968 NPE, 1986 NPE. After that, there were 2 commissions that studied why NPE and POA 86 was not fully functional. 2 commissions came after that, after 1986. One in 1990, the other in 1992. 1990, Acharya Ramamurthy Commission. 1992 is Janardana Reddy Commission. Acharya Ramamurthy Commission started 3 important institutions. Kendriya Hindi Sanstha to study Hindi. CIEFL to study foreign languages. CIIL to study Indian languages. CIEFL means Central Institute of English and Foreign Languages. CIIL means Central Institute of Indian Languages. That came after Acharya Ramamurthy Commission. Easy. After Janardana Reddy Commission came the Common School System and Navodaya Vidyalayas. Okay, Janardana Reddy Commission of 1992. I know you're getting a little restless and bored. Wait, only one more commission is there. That is our NEP 2020. NEP 2020. Quickly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me give you some points. NEP 2020 suggested an academic book bank of credit. That means whatever good things you are doing in undergraduate degree, postgraduate level, everything will be commonly stored in ABC, Academic Bank of Credit. And according to NEP, there will be the establishment of MERUs. MERUs are multidisciplinary education and research universities. There will also be an NRF set up. NRF is set up, means National Research Foundation. HECI will control everything. HECI is Higher Education Commission of India. Higher Education Commission of India, HECI. And there will be a NETF, National Educational Technology Forum. That is to teach technology. Okay, in all this development, one thing played an important role: translations. You know, from the 18th century, translators were there. Nathaniel Brassey Hallhead, Charles Wilkins, who translated Bhagavad Gita, William Jones, who translated Abhijnana Shakundalam, Monier Williams, who made a major Sanskrit English dictionary, and then Ralph T.H. Griffiths, who translated Ramayana, etc. These early translators are important in our exams. And also early writers from the 18th, 19th centuries, including a lot of writers that we know. So that will be another video, because this video was so full of so much detail, you must be bored. You might need a break. No problem. Bye-bye for now. I'll be back with early Indian literature next video. See you.